Hey guys, today we're going to be driving our 2021 Mazda CX-30 and doing an ownership update. Lots to discuss on this car, a lot of thoughts to give after having a son and using this as a family car. We've got some new winter tires on here, so we're going to talk about those a little bit and just give you guys some overall ownership impressions. We bought this car in October of 2020. It was about $30,000 all said and done. It's a front-wheel drive premium. Got a pretty good deal on it. And been very, very happy with the driving experience, but as a family car, it's been a little bit tight. So we'll show you what that looks like in the back seat with our car seat situation. This is mostly my wife's daily driver, so she spends most of the time in it, and we haven't really had to haul our son around too much, so it hasn't been too big of an issue with this being a smaller space. But basically, this is what the car seat situation looks like. We use the Baby Duna car seat stroller combo, which is super convenient because all you have to do is just fold it up and put it in the back on this quick latch system, and you've got a car seat, and then you unfold it and you've got a stroller. The only problem is it's a little bit of a bigger package, and in the back of this Mazda CX-30 it's a tight fit. You can see here the wheels are contacting the back of the seats, and it's a little bit of a, I don't know, an exercise in geometry to wrestle it back there. They do make some smaller car seats for compact cars, and something like that honestly would be a much better choice for us in the back of the CX-30. But here we are, we're not really willing to compromise. We love our Baby Duna, and we might have to get a bigger car, we'll see. I will say that if you are thinking about using a CX-30 as a family car, you can do it. It's just not ideal. I would probably recommend a CX-5 over a CX-30 if you have a kid. So hopefully that answers some questions there. The trunk space actually hasn't been an issue at all. No complaints about the room in the back of this hatch. Pretty good amount of space, super roomy, plenty of room for groceries, larger car seats. There's even a compact spare tire back there. So that's been really nice. Next order of business, we just mounted these winter tires on here. These are Continental VikingContacts in 225/55 R18s. Now, these are slightly wider than the stock 215s, which gives us a little bit more sidewall, a little bit more rolling diameter, which I like for Michigan potholes, and I think it looks a little bit more aggressive on the car. It does throw the speedo off a couple miles per hour, but nothing really major. So we're going to be testing these out today, give you guys some thoughts on what they handle like in the dry. We haven't really had a ton of snow yet this year, so hopefully we'll get some time in the slippery stuff on these tires too. Otherwise, just a pretty basic CX-30. Haven't done any mods to it. It's completely stock. I just did an oil change myself. It was super easy. This car's been pretty efficient for us, averaging around 28 miles to the gallon combined. It is filthy in here. We've made a few videos on this car already, and I've kind of expressed a few gripes, a few concerns, a few things that annoy me, but for the most part, we really, really like driving this car. It's super fun to drive, it rides well enough, it's a little bit on the stiff side, but the infotainment and the sound system are real highlights for us. I love what Mazda did with this infotainment. Apple CarPlay integrates beautifully, it's responsive, and this iDrive-like scroll wheel down here is genius because it keeps the screen high, close to your view on the road, but you don't necessarily have to be reaching around and wondering what you're pressing. You have quick access controls for your audio, for your navigation. You can quickly go to the home screen by holding this button. It's just brilliant. You get into so many other cars and the infotainments are overcomplicated and difficult and tedious to use, and the CX-30, after living with it, has just been fantastic. Now, even though the back seat may be a little bit tight, seating room and comfort in the front is really nice. You're definitely a little bit more cocooned in the CX-30 than you are in something like a CX-5 or, a Ford Escape or something like that. But I feel like I have a nice sporty driving position. I feel like I'm low down in the car and not sitting on top of it. This kind of reminds me of just a lifted hot hatch, and the driving experience translates to that. It's been pretty fun to live with and drive on a daily basis. There's basically no major complaints that we have about this thing except for the room in the back for our son. So anyway, let's take this thing for a drive. We'll give you guys some more thoughts on the road and take it from there. Now, I've mentioned this before. One of my complaints about the CX-30, this and the Mazda 3, is it has this parking brake that automatically comes on every time you shut off the car, and it doesn't necessarily automatically disengage unless if you take your foot off the brake and tap the accelerator in reverse. You can always manually do it, but then you have to do it every time you start up the car. Just a little bit of a gripe. I wish Mazda would allow us to disable that or have it disable when you put it in gear like Toyotas do. Not a deal breaker, but just kind of a minor annoyance. Learn to live with stuff like that, though. Not a huge deal. One thing that has been a little bit more of an irritation, though, honestly, has been the memory seats. I'm not entirely sure what the deal is, whether it's a glitch or this is just kind of how it's designed and built into the system. But if I set my memory setting, okay, you have to come to a complete stop, you have to be in park when you set your memory setting. Let's say it's winter, I'm putting on a puffier jacket, I want to adjust my seat and set a new memory setting. If I set that and get back into the car and unlock the car with my key, it will revert back to my previous memory setting. It's almost like you have to set the memory setting to the 1 or 2 and then set it to your key. It's kind of weird, and I'm not exactly sure what Mazda's reasoning behind it is. So I've had a little bit of trouble trying to get my seating position right. And basically what I've learned that I have to do is just set it to my number 2 setting and then program my key to that number 2 setting again. And it just takes a little bit more time. So let's talk about these winter tires. We have these Continental VikingContacts. And this is a winter tire that's interested me for quite a while because I've heard it handles a little bit better in the dry than a lot of other compounds. And I can attest to that. It feels really good in daily driving scenarios on the CX-30. There's no tread squirm. It doesn't feel squishy. The steering turn-in is responsive. I honestly haven't spent much time with it in the snow, but it seems like a pretty capable winter tire in the slippery stuff too. We'll do a snow test later on when we get some more flurries. But for now, I've been really impressed with it in the dry and in the wet. Super quiet at speed. Again, kind of has all the good characteristics of a nice all-season, but with winter tire levels of traction and grip in the snow. Dynamically, the CX-30 has actually been pretty fun to drive. The transmission seems to have improved its shift logic just a little bit, and I think we've learned to kind of drive it a little bit better too. There's not a lot of torque down low, even though this is a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder. It's a pretty large 4-cylinder displacement. But the handling, the braking, the steering, the engine response, it all kind of comes together to make a really nice, enjoyable driving experience. I also love how Mazda has tuned the stability control here. It's not too intrusive at all. It actually gives you quite a bit of leeway. It's very liberal. You can see back there, even on these winter tires, handling was fantastic. A little bit of tire squeal, very progressive though. Really nice steering feel at the limit. The steering's a little bit rubbery. It talks to you. It's definitely not as numb as a lot of other crossovers in this segment, which I really like. Another really nice positive, whenever I drive other cars in this class and I get back in the CX-30, I can't believe how quiet it is at speed on the highway. The noise isolation and the noise level in this car is really up there with vehicles in the next class, in the luxury segment. And in some cases, I think it's a little bit quieter than some of those vehicles. It's pretty impressive stuff. You combine that with a really nice Bose sound system, and this is a very luxurious and premium feeling driving experience This interior seems to be wearing pretty well with age too, except for the center area looks pretty grungy with all the gloss black. We knew that going into it. And this center plastic piece on the steering wheel has gotten a few scratches on it just from use. But otherwise, everything else in here is looking pretty good. One more complaint. I don't know if it's just bad luck or if it's just a quality thing, but we've gotten quite a few chips on this windshield, more so than a lot of other vehicles. So I don't know if other CX-30 owners have seen the same thing or experienced the same issues, but the glass on the CX-30 seems to be a little bit weaker than it is on some other cars that we've had in the past. I really like using the cruise control and driving assistance systems. The adaptive cruise works pretty well on the CX-30. Lane keep, lane centering, not so much. But the system is very easy to live with. You can skip 5-mile-an-hour increments really easily. It's a fast system to engage. If you just hit cancel and you leave the cruise system on, it will stay on the next time you cycle on the vehicle, which is pretty neat. You don't have to always re-engage that cruise control system, so you can just press set and you're ready to go whenever you are driving next. Let's throw this into manual and sport mode and see what happens. Play around with the paddle shifters a little bit. The 6-speed is actually kind of fun to drive with the paddles. Oh boy. Yeah. Even matches revs into first gear. I also haven't really driven this car much in sport mode. Let's see how it does on this entrance ramp. Using all the road there. Looks like it keeps our revs pretty high. It'll delay upshifts until we're just cruising for a little bit. Nice for back road driving. There we go. Back into normal mode. Gosh, it would have been cool if they offered this CX-30 in a manual, but I'm sure the take rate would have been very, very low. Something pretty appealing though about a lifted hatch. And I've got to say, this is kind of one of the best options on the market. The Crosstrek is probably what a lot of other people would consider comparatively to this car. And the Crosstrek is nice, but gosh, it's so loud on the inside, and the interior feels kind of cheap. It's definitely a little bit more of a bargain basement economy hatchback, whereas this maybe has the bones of an economy hatch, but it feels so much nicer, and it really kind of, it feels like it's a class above the Crosstrek in some ways. Yeah, really impressed with the steering response and the sharpness of these winter tires. I actually kind of like driving on them a little bit better than the stock all seasons that we had on this car. A huge difference between this and the Blizzak WS80s that we had previously. Really, I mean, a winter tire that doesn't sacrifice any driving dynamics in the dry and the wet, and I really, really like that. especially for the lack of snow that we've had this year. Sometimes you lose so much traction and so much grip and drivability with a car when you throw a squishy set of winter tires on. It's nice to not have that problem. They ride nice too over bumps. The CX-30 has always been pretty sensitive to tire pressure changes, and the suspension honestly is a little bit stiffer than I would like, but the extra sidewall from these 225s, even though they're a higher load rated tire, they ride pretty well. Definitely an improvement over stock. All right, so how can we sum up some thoughts on this CX-30? We have loved this car. Don't get me wrong. It's just, I think we've kind of outgrown it a little bit with the family. We're probably going to be getting a Toyota Highlander hybrid here pretty soon, and that will replace this. But there's some things that we're really going to miss about this car. Love this infotainment. Love the simplicity of this cabin. It's so usable and it's so driver friendly. It's simple. It doesn't get in the way of driving. It's not distracting. It's not dangerous. We love the safety of this car. We love the luxury that it provides for the price. I think if you're looking for something that is fun to drive, economical, reasonably priced, not enormous on the road, this is a fantastic option for people who have a small family and are willing to kind of compromise a little bit with the child seat in the back, or no family. And I would also recommend this as a bit of an enthusiast choice. I've always liked to daily drive a little bit of a sportier car, and something like the CX-30 actually really speaks to me. There is some good Mazda DNA in this chassis, in this driving experience. I'm not really sure the turbo or the all-wheel drive car is that much more enjoyable to drive. The turbo is quicker, but you take such a hit on fuel range with the smaller gas tank from the all-wheel drive system, and just having less, of an efficient engine with a turbocharged motor, that I think that would be kind of annoying to live with as a daily driver, just because you just get such low fuel range, like in the 250 mile range, if not less, depending on how much you're into it. Definitely have a few minor complaints and gripes about this car, but nothing is perfect. I think this is just one of the better buys on the market, though, in this sub-compact crossover class. I kind of put it at the top, honestly. I think it beats out all the other options. You get into this, you take it for a drive, and then you get into something else that it competes against, and the CX-30 just feels and drives so much better. But it kind of depends on what you prioritize and what you value. If you're looking for a spacious vehicle, this isn't going to be it. But if you want something that kind of hits on some other important points that we've talked about, I would highly recommend one of these cars. Don't know if we're going to be selling this privately. Don't know if we're going to be trading it in yet. I'll let you guys know if we're doing any private sales if anyone is interested in it. But for now, I think that's going to wrap up our thoughts on the 2021 Mazda CX-30. We'll try to get another snow driving video on this for you guys so we can test out these VikingContacts and the slippery stuff. But until then, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.